Hello, today we will be explaining the storyline of Telltale Games The Walking Dead Season 1. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content just like this. Episode 1. We begin the story just outside of Atlanta. Lee is in the back of a cop car being sent to prison for murdering his wife and the man she cheated on him with. The police officer, seeing how quiet he is, tells Lee that he thinks he did not do it. When Lee asks why, the officer tells him tales of how most people end up crying and wailing about how they did not do it by this point. The officer is about to tell him one particular story that came to his mind when suddenly he hits someone on the road and the vehicle spins out of control and down into the ditch below, knocking Lee out. When he wakes up, he finds he is still in handcuffs, but the officer is nowhere to be seen. He kicks the window in and climbs out to see the officer seem to have been dragged out of his vehicle and is unconscious. Lee takes the opportunity to try to steal the keys to his handcuffs from the officer, but as he does so the officer jumps at him. He appears either crazy or animalistic or both, and Lee is forced to shoot his brains out with a shotgun to defend himself. Panicked about what to do, he sees a figure in the distance watching him, but when they lock eyes the figure runs off and disappears. Lee decides to chase after the person and is further motivated by the fact that the gunshot alerted more crazed monsters to his presence. He struggles to make it over a fence but just makes it in time to not get eaten. He finds himself in someone's backyard. There is a pool and a tree house, but he isn't in the mood for having a bit of leisure. He goes inside the house seeing no one is home and looks around. He finds a family picture featuring a mother, father and a little girl and figures that is who lives there. He plays a voice recorder to find that since he was knocked out something terrible has happened to the world, as the parents of Clementine are frantic and telling her to call the police for protection. Suddenly Lee hears a voice, the voice of a young girl. The girl asks him who he is and tells him to stay quiet. Lee obliges and asks where she is and what her name is. We find out that the girl's name is Clementine and that she has been hiding in the tree house since it all started. As Lee waves to Clementine from the house, Clementine screams as another walker is in the house with him. He barely gets to the glass door to take a hammer off of Clementine before bashing the walker's brains in. Clementine reveals she has been alone all this time and wants to see her parents. Lee says he will look after Clem until he can at least get her to her parents. They both go outside and to the front to look for help, where they meet two people having car troubles, Sean Green and Chet, who were scared that they were going to eat them. Sean suggests that they get out of town and to his father's farm where it might be safer. Just then the walkers arrive and they have to get the car started quickly and drive out of there as fast as possible. They arrive at Herschel's farm late at night. Herschel treats Lee's wounds and lets them stay in his barn for the night. Whilst sleeping, Lee has nightmares about what he did to his wife and regrets doing it. In the morning they meet the other family, a husband and wife named Katya and Kenny, as well as their son Duck. Lee helps around the farm setting up the fence and talking to everyone when suddenly, as Lee is talking to Herschel, a scream can be heard from the fence where Sean and Duck were. Duck accidentally runs the tractor onto Sean and walkers are inches away from breaking down the fence. Lee tries to help whilst Kenny gets Duck away from the walkers, but it is too late, and the walkers get to Sean before Herschel can get his gun. Enraged by what has happened, Herschel pushes everyone away, telling them to leave immediately. Lee and Clementine then leave with Kenny's family and head to Macon, Lee's hometown. There they get cornered by walkers but are saved and pulled into a local pharmacy, a pharmacy that used to be owned by Lee's parents. Lee gets into a scuffle with two of the people already there who didn't want to save them, Lily and her father Larry, when suddenly Clementine finds a live walker in the toilet. Lee rushes to save her but is in turn pinned by the walker. It was up to another survivor, Carly, to shoot the walker in the head. Larry also has a heart attack, which Lily uses as a segue to explain that since they arrived at the pharmacy they've been trying to get into where the pills are kept. Lee agrees to help them. We also meet Glenn, who promises to go out and find supplies, and Doug, who is on the lookout to make sure the walkers don't break in. Whilst on lookout with Doug, Lee notices his zombified brother pinned by a wooden beam and hypothesizes that his brother might have the keys to the pharmacy. After finding a remote that he could use to distract the walkers, Glenn calls Lee on the radio and asks for assistance because he is surrounded by walkers. Lee and Carly come and get him, and Glenn then tells them that someone is stuck in the motel, and they want to save her. So, they slowly kill each walker one by one, grabbing an axe on the way and make it up to the motel door. As it turns out, the woman inside is bitten, and as she comes out you must make the choice either to give her the gun for her to kill herself or try to calm her down. Either way, she shoots herself in the head. When you get back, Lee and Doug use the remote to turn on the TVs in the shop opposite the pharmacy to distract the walkers. While they are distracted, Lee goes and takes his brother's keys and puts him out of his misery. You take the keys to the back with Lily to unlock the pharmacy, but as you enter, the alarms go off alerting all the walkers in the area to come and break into the building. As everyone tries to hold out the fort, walkers grab both Doug and Carly at the same time, forcing you to make the decision between saving Carly or saving Doug. Since most people save Carly, we will stick to this timeline, and Doug is dragged outside by the walkers and eaten. As Lee tries to escape through the back, Larry stops him and knocks him out, but as he wakes up he sees Kenny saving his life. They relocate to the motel, piling up the walkers and fortifying the place in the event of walkers showing up. Glenn wants to leave to help his friend in Atlanta, and Lee is happy for him to go. Larry reveals to Lee why he is so bitter towards him, and it is because he knows Lee is a killer that was going to prison and wants to keep his daughter safe from him. Everyone agrees that they think they can stay at the motel until the military arrives, and so they hunker down for the night as the power finally goes out. Ending Episode 1. By Episode 2 a few months have passed, and Lee has met a few more people at the motel. He is out hunting with another survivor named Mark when he hears a scream in the woods. They rush to the aid of whoever is hurt and find a stranger trapped in a bear trap next to two of his former students. Not being able to get the man out of the trap in time, Lee is forced to chop his leg off, but before they can all escape safely, one of the students is eaten by walkers. When Lee arrives back with two more mouths to feed, only one being useful, Lily is enraged that Lee was not looking out for their group's interests. Kenny calls Lily a dictator and storms off. Lily gives Lee today's rations and lets him decide who gets to eat since they run out tomorrow, allowing you, the player, the chance to build relationships with who you want within the group. You also learn here that Clementine has lost her hat that her parents gave her and can't find it. Suddenly the teacher whose leg was amputated turns and grabs Katia. Lee is almost bitten when Mark and Carly kill it. The last remaining student, Ben, is put under pressure as everyone thinks he did not tell anyone about the teacher's infection, but then Ben reveals to the group that no matter how you die you will turn. Pointing out how a girl in his old school committed suicide by pills, and the next day the entire girls' locker room was a bloodbath. At that moment, two strangers come out of the woods and say they need gas to maintain their electric fence and offer to trade food for gas if necessary. They even offer to let them come over. Lily decides to let everyone vote on whether they should go or not, and they decide that they will check it out. We learn that they are both named Andy and Danny. Along the way they have to hide as two bandits have a scuffle and one of them gets shot in the face, making Lee's group wish to cling to the farmers more. The farm itself looks untouched, almost too good to be true considering how the rest of the world looks. They meet Brenda, the St. John brothers' mother, who welcomes them to the farm and wishes for the whole group to stick around for a longer period of time. They make a deal that Lee's group will bring a veterinarian to treat their cow and they can stay for dinner. Whilst Lee is out repairing the fence and pushing off walkers with Mark, the fence switches on just before they are ambushed by bandits. Mark suffers an arrow to the shoulder, and they get pinned behind a tractor, which they have to release the brakes on so they can move their cover over to the fence gate and escape. As Lee gets back with Mark, the rest of the group arrive. Larry as per usual gets angry at Lee as Katia and Brenda take Mark inside. Lee agrees with the St. John brothers that they will scope out one of the bandits' camps in preparation for a counterattack. As they leave, Clementine asks them to please be lucky and not get hurt. They find one of the camps and no one is there. They only find empty cans and boxes from the St. John's Dairy which were given to them as part of an agreement the brothers had to keep them away. Suddenly, right after Lee finds Clementine's hat in a tent, a woman appears with a crossbow aimed at him. Her name is Jolene and Lee interrogates her on what she was doing and why has Clementine's hat. Jolene warns Lee that the brothers are up to something, but before she can tell him what they are, she is shot in the head by Danny. Soon after, they return home. When they do get home, they find Kenny and Lily still arguing as they can't see eye to eye on how to govern the group. Brenda brushes it aside though and explains it by their empty stomachs. When Lee goes to investigate it, it turns out Kenny is suspicious of the brothers and Lily is also getting suspicious that something is wrong but still wants to eat and go back home. Lee decides he will finally do some snooping around of his own before dinner. He returns Clementine's hat to her relief and finds a locked door at the back of a barn. Kenny wonders if Lee can pick a lock due his urbanite background, but before they can figure out a way through the lock, they are interrupted by Andy, who pulls them away from the door. Lee disables the generator, forcing Andy to leave the barn and try and fix it, and Lee uses this time to go back into the barn and unscrew the lock on the door. Whilst everyone goes out to get dinner, Lee opens the barn door to find a workshop filled with blood. Andy catches Lee and tries to explain it with the fact that they cut up the animals they hunt in that room. Lee enters the dining room and wonders where Mark is. He snoops around the house until he finds Mark in a hidden bathroom with his legs cut off. As if it wasn't obvious with Mark's absence, they had chopped his legs off and cooked them for everyone to eat. Mark tells Lee to not eat dinner and he rushes downstairs to stop Clementine eating the forbidden pork. After you confront and expose the St. John's family, they turn their guns on the group and knock Lee out. Lee wakes up in a meat locker along with Larry, Lily, Clementine and Kenny, with Katya and Duck gone. Suddenly Larry has a heart attack and Kenny realizes that soon they are going to be stuck in the room with a 300-pound angry zombie. Lee and Kenny are forced to crush Larry's brain whilst Clementine refuses to look in tears. After the job is done, Clementine is angry because Lily said he wasn't dead yet. Lee then figures that they could escape if they could loosen the air conditioner on the wall and climb out of the hole. He uses coins from Larry's pocket to unscrew and pull it off the wall, allowing Clementine to climb through the vents and open the door. Danny is sat on guard outside, so Kenny and Lee try to sneak up on him but must hide in one of the barn boxes to not be spotted. Once they open the gate again, Danny is right there ready to shoot them, but Lee quickly grabs the barrel and pushes it upwards before he can shoot. Since it is a single-shot rifle, they quickly pin him down and lock his leg in a bear trap like the one from the beginning of the episode. You then have the choice to either kill Danny or spare him. Next you enter the house where Brenda is holding Katya hostage. But as she backs up the stairs, a now zombified Mark grabs her and takes a bite out of her neck. Back outside, Duck is being held hostage as well by Andy. He shoots Kenny, but when Carly takes out his ear, stunning him, Lee tries to wrestle the gun off him but is almost pushed into the electric fence. However, you turn the tables on him and punch the shit out of him. Andy demands Lee finishes the job, which gives you another opportunity to either kill or spare him. Either way, his farm is in ruins and the walkers close in on whoever is left. On the way back they find a mysterious abandoned car full of supplies which the group decides to take. In the back is a sweater that is Clementine's size as well as antibiotics. The episode ends with a videotape of Jolene recording Clementine from the trees by the motel, rambling to herself about how she will save Clem from the bandits. Thank you for watching. This is part 1 of a 2-part series covering The Walking Dead Season 1. Once again, be sure to subscribe for more campaign explanation videos. Thank you, and see you next time.